All right, welcome to this week's In the Mind of Haize segment, brought to you by The Awakened Soul, presented by the Breaks Media Podcast Network. Make sure you go and check out all the lovely podcasts on that wonderful network. But this week in the Mind of Haize, we're definitely going to be talking about Leaving Neverland, the documentary on Michael Jackson. And so just behind the scenes, this is being filmed before part 2 drops. So I actually haven't got to see part 2 yet, or the Oprah special afterwards. But let's just talk about night 1. If for anyone that thought the Surviving R. Kelly, at least for me, I know I felt like that was just mind blowing and wild, and it's just everything that came out from it. This is just completely blown that up even more. To hear these two men talk about what they were going through, like a marriage ceremony with Michael Jackson. He actually gave the one guy a ring, the graphic details on some of the sexual abuse situations exactly. And it's crazy because you know a lot of people will come out and they will say, oh well, you know, these two men also testified that he never touched them, which I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of on my mind too. Like it was weird, but just to hear these stories and to see them, it makes it even more powerful. And you know, I know some people still doubt it, the validity of these stories, especially as stuff starts coming out about, you know, one of the victims, how his career failed and he was going through financial issues, and he tried to sell a book as well. And then this opportunity presented itself, and of course he hopped on it. So I can understand somewhat, but the details of some of this leaves not really much to really be left open to discussion, in my opinion. And I think that as swiftly as we saw things happen with R. Kelly, in a sense, we won't get to see that same thing with Michael Jackson because he is already deceased. But the public opinion on it, the conversations that happen, and the opening people's eyes to it, we need to keep, and I've been saying this almost since the Me Too movement started, we need to keep shedding the light to that dark underbelly of Hollywood that for so long went untouched. And if we're going to sit there and talk about R. Kelly as well, and talk about how he went years without being prosecuted and people helped him and assisted him, just off that, I have to keep that same energy and say the same thing about Michael Jackson. People knew that this was going on. I refuse to believe that he didn't. If this is true and this is what happened, people absolutely had to know what was going on. And it just shows you just how has happened in Hollywood to just keep this going, and to keep things like this under wraps, and the hush money and the everything else that's going around. So when stories and documentaries come out like this, it means a lot. Even in this case with Michael Jackson already being deceased, it means a lot for everything going forward and people feeling more comfortable coming forward in the future. And hopefully anyone else who's in a similar situation like this feels empowered and enough to come forward to begin with, to never hide it. And you know, there's something to be said about Stockholm Syndrome. There's something also to be said about the fact of how Michael Jackson came in and wooed these people's parents and everything. But at the same time, yes, Michael Jackson is wrong. If he did this, he is completely wrong for what he did. Now, I don't want to make it seem like I'm making any excuses at that at all. But at one point, is it that you're putting your child's safety in someone's hands that you really don't know because they're famous? I'm sorry. I don't ever think that being famous, being popular has ever meant that you should automatically trust someone. And so not to blame their parents for the actions of someone else, but to blame them or to hold them accountable for your child should have never been left alone in a situation like this. That's my opinion on it. There's wrong to go all the way around in the situation. So I'm glad it came out. I'm glad everyone's watching the documentary. I'm glad that the conversations that's been had about it. But we also need to figure out how it's going to move forward. What's next to come from this? How do we grow from this as people? How do we try to keep children safer now going forward? That's a part of the conversations that we need to have. And it's just crazy. And, you know, it personally messes with my mind some because Michael Jackson is one of my favorite all-time artists. And it's something me and my daughter share as well. My daughter Amaya is a huge Michael Jackson fan. Huge. She's 10 years old, a huge Michael Jackson fan. So now what? It just leaves me with like, what do I do now as a parent? What do I do now? Do I explain this to my daughter? Because she's 10. She goes to middle school next year. I'm sure at some point this conversation is going to come up. And then what do I say as a parent? So that's me being reflective on it. Later in the show, I said we have Fame Black coming on to discuss the whole Momo and the Blue Whale stuff going on, and how parents need to be responsible and watch out for what their kids are watching. So that makes me think the same thing. What do I need to do now for who I'm allowing my daughter to hear? Who am I letting my daughter listen to? But let me know what you guys think. I like I said, I know by the time this drops, part 2 of the documentary will be out. So no telling what other sick details are going to come out from that. Also the Oprah special. But I want to know how you guys feel about this. Is Michael Jackson canceled now to you? Are you guys still playing Michael Jackson music? Are you doing completely away with it? And how now does that affect you enjoying their music? I want to know. That'll be posted on the Breaks Media Twitter page, as well as the Awakened Soul Twitter page. So answer those questions, respond to those polls. This is why we're trying to get a forum page put up on the breaksmedianetwork.com so we can have conversations like this. The next topic that I want to talk about in the Mind of Haize segment is the Democrats, the House have opened an investigation, a probe, I guess, as to what it really is, and they have sent out requests to over 81 individuals to submit documents, and they're going after Trump. It's not really, so for anyone who's running and saying that this is an impeachment process, it's not necessarily that. It may be a prelude to one. They're soliciting everyone from people who worked on Trump's campaign, people who worked for him in the past, work with him. And it's really something they're really trying to get set up for this Mueller investigation. And what comes out from that, if anything comes out from it. And that's another problem. Everyone is putting so many eggs into this basket of this investigation from Mueller, and we don't really know what's in it yet. It could be nothing. So it's good, I guess, in one sense that they are trying to supplement that and hedge their bet and get ready in case anything doesn't come from this. But after that, the Cohen testimony, and they're preparing what moves can be made. Hopefully they get information so that they can move forward. And I personally, and I've said this before when I was talking to Socially Unacceptable, I don't personally think that they are going to impeach Trump. I just don't believe that it's going to happen. If it does, and they have the evidence to it, good. I don't want any witch hunts. I don't want any. I want facts. I want this all to be above board. And I've said this before. If they're going to do this, I want them to have an airtight case so that way we can get some real change going on. Will it happen? Won't it? I don't know. I can't say for 100%. But let me know what you guys think about it. The last topic that we do have, and I definitely want to end this on something positive. So Zendaya has her Tommy Hilfiger line coming out, and she put on a fashion show for all black models. And it was in Paris as well with her Tommy Hilfiger line. And this is just something that, people have said before. Zendaya has been accused of appropriation because she's not 100% black. But to do something in this case, and to have a clothing line and to have the music and the soul that was in this fashion show is powerful. And I think that we definitely need to highlight things like this when we talk about inclusion, and we talk about how we aren't put in the forefront, and we aren't represented for our blackness. This fashion show that went on, the fact that it was all black is just a beautiful thing. And while we're talking about one subject that's just discussing, another one that can be frustrating, can be whatever with Trump, it's good to end on. I wanted to end on this positive and talk about Zendaya and what she's trying to do. This is a young woman really who I wouldn't mind my daughter not looking up to, but seeing and watching what she's doing. We all have talked about Zendaya, but as she grows up and as she matures, she is really becoming just a powerful figure in this industry. So I wanted to end the Mind of Haize segment this week on talking about that fashion show. Let me know what you guys think about it. If you guys seen any pictures of it, it's beautiful. That's all I can say. This has been the In the Mind of Haize for this week. We're going to take a brief break. For the listeners, for the watchers on YouTube, you got to go and download the full podcast. The links are in the description. Go and check out this episode of The Awakened Soul as well as the other podcasts on the Breaks Media Network. This is Haize signing off. Peace.